Hello everyone, welcome to this final video introducing this course to you. In this video, I'll be talking about the group project specific or the podcast project, right? So the group podcast project, I will be assigning you all into groups of 3 or 4. As of right now, the class has 40 students in it. So you'll all be assigned to groups of 4. There'll be 10 groups of 4. And once you're assigned to a group, the groups are not subject to change. What you'll be doing is you can either meet in person or you can meet online, which is what most of my groups have done in the past. And you'll be recording 3 podcast episodes through the semester. Right. The first one is a short one. The first one, you'll be recording something called a project charter. This is where you and your group members get together and you decide how exactly you are going to work on the 2 other episodes that you're going to work on. So what is your philosophy on working? How often will you communicate with each other? How will you communicate with each other? How quickly do you expect your teammates to reply? What will you do if somebody is not pulling their weight in the project? And anything else that you feel like you need to discuss for this group to work together, right? And this is a podcast, so remember that this cannot be one of those things where one person speaks for 2 minutes and another person speaks for 2 minutes, third person speaks for 2 minutes, and then fourth person speaks for 2 minutes, and you have an 8-minute video. That will not work. This is a podcast, which means that it has to be a discussion. There has to be back and forth. And that's the whole idea of doing this, so that you learn from each other's ideas. Now, the project charter will be an 8-minute video. That's the first episode that you'll be recording, and this recording, I'll be the only one listening to that. The second episode that you'll record is the midterm podcast episode. Even this only I'll be listening to, and here there is a case in chapter 2 called the demise of Blockbuster, which talks about how Blockbuster became the go-to place for people to get videos, video rentals, and then of course the demise of Blockbuster, the arrival of Netflix, and Redbox is something that they talk about. So here you'll be creating a 15 to 20 minute, not 15 to 20 minute, it's a close to 20 minute, 18-minute podcast video on this topic. So it doesn't have to be a video, it can absolutely be an audio, but it has to be around 18 to 20 minutes. And that's the idea there. Now, for each of these individual assignments, I will post a very detailed rubric. And that rubric will tell you exactly how I am going to grade this project. For example, let me show you the project charter. So if you go to the project charter, you'll notice that there is a detailed rubric here which tells you exactly what I'm looking for. Did all the members get introduced? Did you identify the project charter carefully? Were there any background slides? You need to have background slides. It's very important that the background slides are shown. So it can be just audio recordings with the background slide on it. You don't have to show your faces. You can show your faces if you want. I am not going to hold you to that one way or the other, but you have to be speaking with some background slides, right? Then how good was the podcast audio quality? And finally, is it an 8-minute podcast? So I want you to create an 8-minute podcast. You to create an 8-minute podcast. So this is the rubric for the project charter. There are points here, and I will score you exactly based upon this. So once you get a grade for your project, you can go and look at the rubric, and I'll tell you exactly how I graded you, so that you exactly know why you got the grade that you got, right? And that's the idea. And I have a similar. I'm going to update some of these rubrics, but I do have very in-depth rubrics for all of these assignments, and this is exactly how I'm going to grade you, right? So keep that in mind. Okay. Coming back. So that's the midterm project, which is demise of Blockbuster. Now the final podcast episode, each team will be presenting the final podcast episode on a different day. So starting March 19th, 2 groups per week will post their podcast episode. So first, let's talk about the episode itself. Each group will create a 20-minute podcast discussing a supply chain analytics topic of your choice. So you look at all the topics that we covered so far and any other supply chain topic that you can think of. So supply chain encompasses pretty much anything that any company does anywhere, right? So you can pick some interesting topic that I might not have covered, but is relevant to you because of your job, maybe, or maybe you read something interesting somewhere. I'm open to anything. So you pick a supply chain analytics topic of your choice, and you'll create a 20-minute podcast with your group members discussing it, right? So using the skill and experience gained through this course, you will create this episode. Now, creating the episode is only part of that project. So what will happen is, if you look at the comments here, you'll notice that starting March 19th, so on March 25th, that's the end of the week after you come back from spring break, groups 1 and 2 will be posting their podcast episode. So you will post it. I will create a discussion board with those two podcast episodes, and all the other members of the class, everybody else in class, will get split up into two groups, and one group will discuss group 1's podcast, the other group will discuss group 2's podcast, right? So starting 2 groups per week will post their podcast episode. The schedule is given there. Once the episodes are posted, all remaining students will listen to that podcast episode and will discuss that podcast topic on the discussion board. So half the class will do one group's episode, the other half will do the second group's episode. Now the 2 groups whose episodes were posted that week. So for example, during this week, when groups 1 and 2's final episodes are being discussed by the rest of the class, groups 1 and 2 will also participate in the discussion. They will be moderating the discussion. If somebody asks a question, you will go and answer them. If somebody makes a comment, you go and reply to that comment. So you don't have to make a post yourself, because your post is the podcast episode itself, but you will be replying to other people's discussion. And how well you interact with your classmates during that week will be a big part of the grade that you receive, right? So remember, you're not only making the podcast episode and posting it, you're also going to be moderating the podcast for that week, the discussion for that week, all right? And that's the podcast assignment. And that is worth 25% of your grade. That's more than the midterm, almost as much as the final exam. So it's a big part of your course. So this is where you'll be using a lot of the supply chain management aspect. The midterm and the final will be more the supply chain analytics, the analytical aspect, while the managerial aspect will be more during these podcast episodes. This will also give you a good time, a good place to interact with your classmates, right? And that's the idea for this podcast project. So so if you go to the class website and modules, you will notice that there are group work guidelines here: how to navigate your group page in Canvas, creating, recording, and downloading a group conference. So the way you create these podcast episodes, you can either do them on Zoom, you could use WebEx, or there is a technology built into Canvas itself called Big Blue Button. And how to create everything using Big Blue Button. If you go here, there are detailed instructions here on what you can do and what you need to be doing. And there are best practices for group work. Like I said, my colleague, Dr. Christy McAlpine, she's the one who created this. Very in-depth, really good instructions. Make sure that you read them before you start working on your project, right? So finally, if you'll notice, your project groups won't be revealed to you right away, because I think you have till Thursday of week 2 to add or drop classes. So I want to wait till the add drop date is done. Once the add drop date is done, I will immediately randomly assign you to groups. So there's a simple way of randomly assigning you to groups on Canvas. That's exactly what I'm going to do. If you look here carefully, I think last day to drop classes is Thursday, January 25th. And that's when at the end of the day on Thursday or early on Friday, I will post your groups who is in your group and who you'll be working with for the rest of the semester. So yeah, so 26. Yeah. That's the idea. All right. So again, if you have any questions about the podcast project or anything in the course introduction videos, again, feel free to email me. Welcome to this class. I'm looking forward to interacting with you through the semester. All right. Take care. See you in the next video.